Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome. We have another Women Talk webinar. And tonight, back by popular demand, because we didn't have quite enough time to really, truly get organized the last time. We have Winnie Lau. Hello, Winnie.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, Winnie.
So, Winnie, tell us a little bit about you. Now, so everybody knows, I'm going to mute everyone now. And everybody is muted, and I'll come back to you, Winnie, to unmute you. There you go. Now, Winnie, I just want to make sure that you are able to screen share. So if you want to start your PowerPoint, just to test things, because we were yakking and we didn't do that. I think you're muted. I'm going to unmute you. There you go. Interesting. I'm not, did you mute yourself, Winnie? Because I'm not able to unmute you.
Hello?
There you are.
Okay, I think, which screen are you seeing?
I am seeing all of the slides.
Oh, that's not what I want to do. And that's not.
So click, right now I'm seeing, so if you click slideshow, it should start.
Yeah, sorry, I think that for some strange reason it's on the other way. Just give me 1 second here.
Okay.
So, I'm not sure. I thought hi, Billy Joe. I thought there was a bio that do you have a bio of me?
Ooh, that's, I think.
Basically, my name is Winnie Lau. I'm a financial life and legacy advisor, and I specialize in the infinite banking concept. I have done so since year 2010. I have a private practice here in Sherwood Park. However, I serve everywhere from BC through to Ontario, and one of my favorite things to do is share how it's possible to finance life without the bank. And that's what I can tell you about myself so far, because I'm going to be chatting for probably the next hour or so, so I'm reluctant to share any more than that. Just, however, at this moment, I apologize. Just give me a quick moment to reopen my PowerPoint because it seems to be stuck.
Okay, so while you're doing that, I'll talk a little bit about this webinar and some of the information that you have shared with us before. And I was quite fascinated. You know, the finance world is a very complicated one. There's many, many options. And really, there's so many options that we as laymen or regular people, we are not aware of. And that's really one of the things that I like about Winnie Lau, is that she is really, she's got some amazing information that could actually change, really, truly, how you bank and what you do with your money. So you are in for a treat. Now, Winnie, how is it looking at your end? Are you able to get your PowerPoint working?
Let me see. Let's try this out. I thought I had this before up and running. Can you see it now?
Yes, we are good to go.
All right. So I value financial liberation, education, and prosperity. And I truly put myself out there as a pillar of hope from being at the mercy of the banks.
Okay, that's good.
Now, I wanted to find, like, you know, so it'd be kind of cross-gendered, but that was the only image I could find. And so one of the things that Mahatma Gandhi says is that poverty is the worst form of violence. And I tend to agree with that, because when we feel like we're in poverty, it tends to not bring out the best in us, right? So, and I'm all about, you know, how do we live the best life possible? So I value everyone's time here, and you know, you can't get that back. And what I really hope to do is I hope that I add I hope I exceed the value that I bring to you in this next hour. And I also want to honor you and just give you a heads up that this possibly may not be for you if you've, given up hope and would rather abdicate your responsibility to others for your finances. And this possibly may not be for you if you really believe that the government or the stock market is going to come through for you when you need the money the most. So with that said, if you're still here with me here at Women Talk, we the women, we contribute in so many different ways. We all bring something different to the table. And where we are, we're just in different places in our journey. And so what I'd like to do is take this next hour, and what I hope to do is empower each and every one of you. Now, I know that not all of us are here women tonight, so the gentlemen that are here with us, I'm so grateful that you're here with us tonight as well. So what do I mean by financing life without the banks? So here we are as, we could be here as an individual or as a family. And what we typically do when it comes to the dollars that we receive in our hands is that it goes directly to pay for the lifestyle that, we've come to enjoy. And it could be different things for each one of us, as it relates to the kind of sports we're into, the kind of hobbies we're into, whether it's for family or savings for a vehicle. For me, I like shoes. So, some of my finances goes to shoes. And so what I want to do is I want to just interrupt that particular pattern of thinking. And instead, what I want to do is I want to introduce what's called the infinite banking concept strategy. And it's like a safe. It's like a warehouse for your money to go to. And so it's really about taking the cash that we would normally spend for this lifestyle and taking it and running it through the infinite banking strategy to pay for the things that we already do in our world. And when we do that, literally the money that we have in our hands tends to increase because of it. So let me just define here and take a quick moment. When I talk about the infinite banking strategy, I'm not talking about one of the big 5 banks. I'm not talking about any of these banks here or the banking institutions per se. What I'm really actually talking about is a set of knowledge, applied knowledge that comes from this book called Becoming Your Own Banker, a life-changing book that entered into my life. And it's really using this knowledge and exercising a particular type of financial vehicle. And this type of financial vehicle, as a high-level introduction to it, it's got 2 buckets of money that a person would have access to. One is the actual general fund of the insurance company. Now I say insurance company because it's a specific type, because that's the financial vehicle we use. And so there's a general fund, and then there's the actual bucket of capital that we would have access to in order to finance our own life. Okay. And so what it also is like when you're practicing infinite banking, it's like you have a whole life line of credit that you're approved for. Okay. However, the common question I always seem to get is like, does it replace my checking account? And the answer is no, it does not. So again, I'm Winnie Lau, and I'm here to put the power of financing back into our hands. And so, as I mentioned before, I'm a life and legacy advisor. However, I'm not just that. I'm also a parent. And I became a parent in July of 1999. This was the first picture I took of my daughter at day 4. And at day 4, that was the first peaceful moment I had with her. And that's when I really connected with her. And this is her when she's at age 8. And this is her again a little over a year ago now. And she's 19. And so the reason I bring this up in this very moment is because having her in my life really progressed my thought process around how do I want my life to shift and change. And I found myself struggling when she was a year old, only making $9 an hour, $10,000 in debt. And I just really wanted to have a great quality of life. And when I made that decision to have a great life for both her and I, a part of that decision included real estate investing. I got into real estate investing as a part of that process for me. And I had to go through all the learning curves of what it means to be a real estate investor. And then from there, I mean, I had a really skewed view of what it was because I entered in the market right down here where things were really, really good. And even before you could assume a mortgage without qualifying. You could just take over the deeds, just sign over paperwork. You didn't have to do credit check or nothing. And then at the height of 2008, 2009, the market started crashing. And I soon began to realize that, from managing almost millions of dollars worth of real estate, and then after the crash, it was nothing. And all of a sudden I was negative cash flow and I was struggling. I knew that I was in business with a lot of different banks with the real estate investments that I had. And after that really happened, I was left feeling something like this, like, I don't, pursuing wealth and chasing after investments was completely different than understanding how cash flow really, really works. And, it just got me into that introspective mode about, how can I still make my whole world go around? Like, what else do I need to know? And so the insight that I had after that experience was that, earning money is one thing. We all have to find ways to earn it. Growing it is another thing, that's investing. But one of the key things here is, my insight is, how do we keep more of our own money? Because getting into real estate and exiting out of real estate is actually easier than having the game plan in place about how to keep all of it, and with flexibility, financial flexibility. So Robert Kiyosaki says it best. I can't say it any other way. It's not how much money you make, but how much money you keep, how hard it works for you, and how many generations you can keep it for. So I just shared, something that caused me huge stress. And that was like, the dip in the marketplace, all of a sudden having a plummeted portfolio, all of a sudden going negative cash flow, having to pay, thousands of dollars each month into my real estate just to keep it going. And I didn't even begin to mention the kind of cause it had in my relationship. But I just want to take a quick moment, if you could, Bridget, maybe just share with yourself, what is one of your biggest causes for money stress?
I know at one point, when you first start a company, cash flow is always kind of an issue, right? Like you have, all of a sudden you have like all these bills and during a certain month, and then all the money comes in other months. So cash flow can be an issue sometimes. And another one of my big issue is the amount of money that I give to the bank.
Yep.
That is a big one for me because, especially after talking with you, realizing that, and most of us never do this. We never actually sit down and see how much money we actually pay for our houses or our cars when we don't have the cash.
Yeah, it can be super limiting, very stressful. Thank you for sharing that with me.
You're welcome.
All right. So let's go in here. And so, yeah, I mean, with the inventive, like starting a new business and the cash flow being a huge priority, the question is, how would our lives be different if we could actually keep all the interest we've ever had to pay out for all the financing we did in our life? Like, how would the quality of our life, how would it be different? How would our choices have been different had we, had the ability to keep that interest, right? Like, I'm not here to solve for taxes. I mean, no matter what, we have to pay for that. But it's just interesting that over a course of a person's lifetime in North America anyways, about a third goes to taxes. A third can actually go towards paying interest. And then what we're left with is a third for take home. And that's what we spend for a lifestyle. That's what we have to use in order to save, right? So why consider the infinite banking strategy? Well, for me, it's because you'll be able to keep more of your own money. You'll get to have more choices as a result of it. There is financial flexibility when you practice this strategy in your life. And there's a lot more control, like financial control in your life. And it has nothing to even do with investing at all. I'm not even talking about investing here, which I think is really powerful. Excuse me. So when you decide that the reasons of why the IBC strategy are important, valuable, and relevant to you, then my hope is that you guys decide that, yes, I want to take the next step. And what that next step is joining me for a further in-depth case study, which is going to be held on Tuesday, September 4th, 2018, from 7 to 8 p.m. So tonight is really a high-level introduction to the infinite banking concept. So it's basically because we all have to start somewhere. And I think that what's really important in my, since 2010 in sharing this is that to me, I found it best, people would catch on to what I'm saying a lot more when the concept comes first before all the numbers. So if you like the concept, then please join me on Tuesday. So in starting somewhere, it's sort of like riding a bike. We have training wheels, and we need encouragement when we get on a bike, right? And so once we find a little bit of confidence without having someone with us when there's training wheels, we kind of look a little bit something like this girl right here. And then it gets to a point where, hey, I'm doing awesome without someone being at my side at all times. But just like infinite banking, once the training wheels come off, then the next step is to actually have the wheels come off, and a little bit more coaching is needed when that step arises. So tonight is really about more like this step, and next Tuesday is more about how the wheels come off and what it looks like going down that road. So tonight is really about, I'm just sharing the tip of the iceberg with you all. And what's interesting about sharing the tip of this iceberg is that really less than 10% of the Canadian population really know about what the infinite banking concept is. So by being here tonight, you guys are ahead of the curve. So let's just go back in time just for a quick moment. So back in the day, we used to use words like this in the hierarchy and the scheme of, who the haves and the haves not, the peasants and the serfs down here, all the way up to the noblemen and the lords and the king. And the issues were not so different back then than they are now when we talk about, the 1% and the 99%, so to speak. And back then, if you watched Robin Hood like I have growing up, so for me, I grew up in the days where in the movies, when Kevin Costner played Robin Hood, I had a huge crush on on Kevin Costner. But back then, really, how I interpreted Robin Hood is he was a man who basically reclaimed the wealth of the people. So he took it back from the king to give back to the poor. The question is in this day and age, who is our modern day Robin Hood, who is helping us to reclaim our wealth, right? So from this point, moving us from this point up to a wealthier point. And so for me, my modern day Robin Hood is Nelson Nash, our Nelson Nash. And he's the man who wrote this book, Becoming Your Own Banker. And it's not like he is taking from the rich to give to the poor, sort of like in the movies. But what he has done is he's given us the knowledge of the wealthy to give to us so that we can practice it in our own world. He's with us today. He's 88 years old, and he lives in Birmingham, Alabama. So this is him and I back in 2013, just shortly after the Authorized Practitioner program came out. I'm one of the first graduates of his program, and very proud moment in my own history. So what is infinite banking concept? Well, it's not a bank, like as I shared before. It's a thought process that represents a major paradigm shift. Okay, and so if I didn't always know what a paradigm shift was, so I hope I'm not being redundant here, but this is what it is. It's an important change that happens when the usual way of thinking about or doing something is replaced by a new and different way of thinking. So I wish that was me over here, but it sort of is, but I'm standing here in the lineup of an inconvenient truth, right? And here's another lineup of, called a reassuring lie, which I think a lot of people sort of stand in this particular lineup as it relates to finances. And R. Nelson Nash promptly says, hey, it all starts with how you think. Now, he's not the only thought leader who says something of this sort, but it is true. It all starts with how you think. And so, if everything you believe to be true turned out not to be true, how soon would you want to know about it? For me, I know I've always stood in this line where I want to be in this line. I want to know about the truth right away. And so this lady here is just saying, hey, join me. It's totally not fashionable, but I sleep way better. And I tell you, standing here in this line up, inviting people to come and join me to learn about infinite banking has definitely required these 4 things for me. It's required some courage, some confidence, conviction, and some coaching. So in understanding a lot more about infinite banking, here are some rules that Nelson has talked about inside of this book. So one of the first is think long range, into the next generation. That will help those of us who want to practice the infinite banking concepts to be a lot more successful. And number 2, don't be afraid to capitalize in your business. And number 3, don't steal the peas, replenish your savings. Number 4, don't do business with the banks. Instead, contract with other free people. And number 5, rethink your thinking and get coaching and stay engaged in the community. So we're just going to be basically touching on this, and it'll be explained a lot more in the upcoming case study on Tuesday, September 4th. So again, I'm talking so much about thinking here, but why do I want to harp on this is because the same old thinking is going to get us in the same old place. And we need to start rethinking our thinking because just as of May 1st in 2018, the article published by the Bank of Canada called Canada's Economy and Household Debt. How big is the actual problem? Well, I'll just take an excerpt out of here. And for those of you who want the full article, happy to send it to you by email. It says in Canada's case, household debt is around 170% of disposable income. So in other words, the average Canadian owes about $1.70 for every dollar of income he or she earns per year after taxes, which is completely scary. Another reason is that last year, CBC News actually put out another article, which is just demonstrating that the banks are not really on our side. They're actually been pressured to do people like you and I who bank and deposit our money into their accounts. So it is time for us to rethink our relationship with the banks. So the IBC strategy completely challenges us. It has for me, especially, is that it caused me to rethink. I had to unlearn a whole bunch of things and I had to relearn. So again, this is, defining what I mean is no longer about taking your cash and directly paying for things. It's really about relearning why is it better to run our money through this strategy and then pay for the things in our life so that increases the amount of money that we can keep in our pocket. So one of the first ways to do that is to challenge our old way of thinking, which is the current old world thinking, is that all the current regular mainstream programs like the RSPs, the TFSAs, the investments that we make, even a lot of the bank products and things like that, they're all designed to keep our money trapped, okay? Versus what I'm proposing here in the infinite banking strategy world, where you notice that there's a huge pile of money here and it's not trapped in any way, right? And there's a lot more flow and to use for all of the same things that we want to, buy and finance in our life. And it's really about, the utilization of how we can run our money to purchase all of these things. So I also want to be clear on what I'm not saying. I'm not saying that if you still want to participate in all of these different programs, you can. You can completely do that. You can actually do both. If you want to run your money, spend your money, and you actually want to buy the RSPs or do the investments, do it. But do it through your infinite banking strategy first before you go and do that. And so what I'm really, really tempting to say is that you can do both. You can absolutely do both. It's this and that. All right. So again, join me for more clarification on September the 4th. Now, we're heading into some deeper learning here from Nelson Nash. And one of the things that he says that took me a little bit to wrap my brain around was, you know, you just finance everything you buy. You either pay interest to someone else or you give up the interest you could have otherwise earned. And those who understand interest earn it, and those who don't pay it. So let's look at how we understand interest rates. So, Miss Bridget.
For my button is like, oh no, which button did I mute? I have a couple mutes.
All right. So I want your help because I want to propose. I need your help on helping to demonstrate how we understand interest rates, and how we're going to do that is through a business proposal. Okay,
all right.
so I'm gonna propose something to you. So just pretend you have $40,000 in cash.
Nice.
Okay, and you're about to buy a car.
All right.
Okay, and I come to you and I say, stop. I want to make you an offer instead. I want to propose something differently to you. So I'm going to ask you to pretend that I'm the banker.
All right.
And for your $40,000 in cash, I want to offer you 4% growth on that $40,000 in cash over the next 5 years.
So you're going to charge me 4% to borrow 40,000.
No, I'm gonna give you.
You're offering me. Okay.
I'm offering you 4% growth on your $40,000 over the next 5 years.
Okay.
Okay, and then so that growth, that $40,000 earning 4% is going to be used as collateral, and I'm still going to give you a 40,000. I'm still going to give you $40,000 as a loan. Okay, but I'm going to charge you 6%, so you can still go out and get that vehicle. I'm not sure what vehicle you're going to get.
Beamer. Oh wait, not enough money.
A good used Beamer. I'm all about, you know. Anyways, so let's just pretend like you can get a good Beamer for $40,000. But
all right.
So are you clear on the business proposal so far?
Okay, so you're offering me 4% return on my $40,000 over 5 years.
Yes.
And you are also giving me a loan, or I can get a loan at 40,000 and I pay 6% interest rate.
Over the next 5 years.
Yeah. Got it.
Yes. Now, I just want to take a quick, not a lot of feedback, but I just want to make sure that everyone is on the same page, that everyone understands the business proposal.
And it's so typical of the bank kind of proposal.
Yeah. So I don't know if we can quickly unmute and then mute, but I just want to make sure that everyone's on the same page.
Okay, everybody's unmuted. Oh. You are all unmuted, people.
So, Maureen McDonald, are you business proposals make sense to you?
Yes, it does.
Great.
I'm with you.
Okay, Teresa Faulkner.
Absolutely.
Okay, Billy Joe.
You bet.
Okay, I can't see anyone else past that. Oh wait, how do I do that? Oh, Nikolai. Nikolai, are you with us?
I'm not sure if my mic is on or not.
It is.
Then yes, I follow.
Okay. Hey, Nikolai. Cherie, are you with?
I am. I get it.
Okay. Amy?
Yep.
Kathy?
Yeah, don't like it, but I got it.
All right. Roseanne?
I don't like it. Back, I'm on another call.
Okay, but you understand the business proposal. Okay. Jennifer?
I get it.
Okay, cool. I hope I don't butcher your name. Is Chapeau?
Chipo, yes, I am, but I don't like it.
Okay.
The
No problem. Okay. And Irene?
Oh, Irene is eating, so she might not be able to.
Okay, so good enough. So everyone is on the same page, and so far the general consensus is that they don't like it. So I guess the question to you, Bridget, is do we have a deal?
I'm going to mute everybody now. Oh, and let me just. Are you with me, Winnie?
Yep. Are you
Okay, cool. Okay, we're good. Well, usually that's how it goes for everyone, right? Like you don't like it, but it's the best that you can get. So yes, I guess we would have a deal unless I could find something better.
But you hesitate.
Yes, because it's complicated, right? Like all these numbers, and can I get better? And it looks like the bank is making more money than they charge you more to lend it to you, and less. They charge you more to borrow, and less when the interest rate on your money.
Right. Okay. Well, let's walk through this deal.
Okay.
Yeah, but hold on. In this case, you have the cash, Bridget.
That is
Yes.
true.
Yes. Hi, Lem.
That's the choice here. Hey, Winnie. The choice here is you have 40,000 cash. She's asking you to give her the 40,000 cash, and she'll give you 4%. Plus, she'll give you a loan at 6%. Do you want to do it or not, or do you want to spend the 40,000 cash on the car?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Thanks, Lim. So yeah, let's walk through this this deal together. So most of you say you don't like it, and so here over 5 years, earning 4%, what will happen is that at the end of that 5-year term, you'll actually earn interest. You'll earn a total amount of interest at $8,800. However, let's look at the other side where you sort of reluctantly said, okay, I'll take that. I'll take your deal with the 6%. I'll pay you 6% for that car loan. So what ended up happening over that same period of time, over that 5 years at 6% interest rate, is that you essentially paid a total of $6,100 in interest, right? So let me summarize on the next page here of what happened. So the total interest paid on the loan was $6,100, but the total interest earned, I didn't say on what you were earning interest on, but it was on a GIC for $8,800.
Yeah.
So essentially, you actually won doing this deal because you actually earned $2,700 in interest doing the deal, which is kind of different than what most of us think, right? And plus, like Alim was saying, is that you have the car and an extra $2,700 in interest earned. And so what really happened originally, why most of us don't like this deal to begin with, hearing about it, is that we instantly come to the conclusion that we're going to have a 2% loss in our money, right? And that paying for cash is better, and that there's no interest and there's no monthly payments. But in actuality, I consider, like, when you pay for things in cash, although you don't have a monthly payment afterwards, it's sort of like a prepayment plan. We just have more control over as to how much money we set aside each time, right? And then when we actually have it, that's when we spend it. So it's still a prepayment plan of some kind. And what actually happened here was that nobody actually lost any money in the deal. The bank paid you 4% on an inclining balance, and the interest you paid was actually on a declining balance. And at the end of the 5-year period, you still have the $40,000 in cash, well, in principal, sitting at the bank earning 4%. Plus, you receive that interest income, $700. So banks are built on a principle of inclining balances. And to take this a bit further, to dissect this a bit more, let's just imagine that your money is still sitting at the bank earning 4%. Okay, Bridget?
Mm-hmm.
And so the thing is that in order to earn the 4% on that $40,000, your money actually still has to stay at the bank.
Yes.
In order to keep earning 4%.
Yes.
So what is the bank doing with their money?
They're investing it.
And making way more than
4%.
Yeah, absolutely. Right?
Definitely.
So what I kind of created this image here in the sense that, and I like this image because it's sort of an analogy of an Asian analogy. About food.
Sweet and sour.
Sour, like some sour pork ribs or something, but it's kind of a sweet and sour experience because it's sweet because we're still earning the 4%, but it's sour because there's no access to the $40,000 in cash, right? So this is the power of compounding working in the bank's favor. right?
Yeah.
Which I find, it took me a little while to get as a practitioner, but when I finally did, I was like, whew, God, my mind is blown knowing this fact, right? So now let's take a closer look at the power of compounding, right? So this is, and so for the sake of this example, I just wanted it to fit all in one page. But, day 1, we have 1 penny. Day 2, we have 2. Day 3, we have 4. And let's just say we keep going and going like this. But at day 22, we are at 20,000, right? So let's just say you needed $20,000 to do like a business trip, like down to Austin, Texas on podcasting.
That is where I'm going.
I know, I read your post. And so let's say you need $20,000 and you want to do this, right, you want to travel right. And so you take it out. But what happens after day 22 is that you've sacrificed your compounding and you're starting at day 23 with now a penny again, right? And it's not until so at day 31, you're only at $2.56 because you've sacrificed your compounding growth, right?
Yeah.
And so what we understand so far about compounding is that you cannot spend it and still save it. That's our current world thinking about compounding interest.
Yes.
So let's take a different version of this and let's just see what would happen if we just went all the way out to day 31. If we didn't stop, I wish money compounded this easily. Maybe it does for some people, but for the majority of us, we would just do this all over again. I mean, if money compounded like this, we would probably have $10 million at the end of each month, right? But, essentially you give up the motion of your money and hand it over to someone else as it relates to putting money in sort of the mainstream world of today. Okay. So not versus yet. Let me just continue with this thought. So right now, let's just pretend going back to the car, you had all this money saved, $40,000, and then as soon as you spend it, you buy the car in cash, you're back down to zero. You have to save all over again until you have more money to spend for the next thing. It's the same thing. Once you have enough money, your balance goes back down to zero, and then it's sort of that regular save, spend pattern. Here's the typical credit or kind of a loan. This yellow line here is that, each one of these circles represents a point at which you're spending some sort of cash flow, right? So you're not ever really getting anywhere when you're just loaning or taking from a line of credit. It just continues to go back down, 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 down. Okay. Versus this green line here, which is the infinite banking way, which is like the whole life line of credit. So you spend money here, and then once you're done paying yourself back, there's more to borrow from than when you first started. Again, you take money out here, you as soon as you're done paying yourself back, there's more money than when you first started. That's just a very conceptual way of understanding why the infinite banking, there's a spelling, I missed an I right there. Okay, anyways, I'll catch that later. That's the infinite banking concept way. Okay,
so explain to me the green line a little bit more. So the blue line, I get it. I have 40,000, I spend it, I'm down to zero, so I have to save again. I get that one. The yellow keeps going down. The green, so I save money every month. Is that what this line is?
No, not necessarily spending money every month.
Saving.
Saving. Yeah, you're saving and you're spending at the same time. And what I think the thing to grab on here the most that's different than these other two methods is that once you spent the money and you paid yourself back and you spend more money, it's you have more to borrow from than when you first started. Okay, and it'll come clear. I hope it becomes clear in the next thing that I show you, Bridget.
Okay.
And the case study, which dives more into the numbers, will also demonstrate that a lot more.
Okay.
Okay. So again, the infinite banking concept is about compounding interest on an inclining balance. Okay. And so how is that possible that, you can have more money to come back to than when you first started? A part of that reason is that, what Nelson discovered in the infinite banking concept is that, again, there's two buckets of money that you're really borrowing from. Okay, so this is, let's just say Mr. Joe's bucket. That could be anyone's. That could be our bucket right here. This is our bucket of money that we have access to while we're alive. But the insurance company allows us to borrow from the general fund of the insurance company. So this, our bucket becomes collateral, okay? So it doesn't interrupt our compounding growth. So essentially it's like if we have $40,000 sitting in this bucket, we're not actually borrowing from our own bucket. We're actually borrowing from this bigger bucket right here. We're borrowing $40,000 from this bucket so that our money can continue to grow as if it never came out.
Okay.
Okay. So again, sort of another visual way to look at the infinite banking process is that.
I thought that was marijuana there for a minute.
Oh my goodness, I know there's marijuana everywhere.
That would really make your money grow.
Yeah, that's one of the hot topics of today, right? So, you know, using the IBC strategy, very similar to what I shared before, you know, it's a sweet, sweet situation because our money still can grow uninterrupted and we have access to our money at the same time. Okay, so this is the power of compounding working in our favor. And there is no other financial vehicle in the world found in one vehicle that is able to do that. I mean, if there is, I'd really like to know about it afterwards.
So the one thing that I'm not quite clear on is the bucket that I'm borrowing from.
Mm-hmm.
That's the part that I'm not clear on. So I have my 40,000 and I know I don't need to borrow against that, but who is that bucket?
That's the insurance company's money.
So you're borrowing against your insurance policy?
Yep.
Okay. Got it.
Awesome. So coming back to this, using the IBC strategy, again, it's sweet, sweet rather than sweet and sour. Okay, it's win-win. Because your money can still grow and you can still access your money at the same time, whereas you couldn't do it the other way, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you wanted to continue earning your 4%, right? So what I love about what I just explained here about the sweet, sweet situation where you're able to actually have your money still grow and have access to money at the same time. Kim Butler, it's a characteristic of prosperity because prosperity has more to do with how much freedom you have with your money than how much money you have. And I love that Kim Butler says that.
Yeah.
And yeah. All right, again, the IBC strategy challenges us to rethink, unlearn, and relearn. So now let's take a look at what financing is like with the bank. An actual financing example. So in order to really do that, you have to break down what the bank's business model is. So can you tell me, what is the bank's business model, Bridget?
So I put my money in the bank and they pay me a 4% interest rate on a good day. It's probably more like 2%. And they then take that money and invest it and make a 8 to 12% return. And that's how they make their money. That's my kind of perception of it.
Yeah, and I like that. I really like it. And I'm gonna add to that even more. So so really this is the bank's business model. This is why they have billions of dollars in interest income in their profit lines when you look it up. You know, essentially the bank's business model is take deposits, lend out money, and charge interest. Yeah. That's what they do. And you said it just in your own words, right? That's what they do. Mm-hmm. And they're very good at it. They're very successful at it. It's just that it's sort of a win-lose relationship, right?
Yes.
It works more in their favor than in ours. So in going with that, let's take a look at a financing example of a house. And so here's a mortgage of $430,000 at 2.85%. Now, I understand that the interest rate environment has risen up, okay? So it's not at 2.85% anymore, but that doesn't really much matter because really it's our understanding of how interest rates and how financing works that's really more important here, okay? So when we're at the sitting with the banker, what is the thing that we want most from the lender at this point when we're sitting down and we want to qualify for a $430,000 mortgage? What is it that we want?
The lowest interest rate possible is
Right.
usually what most people want.
Yeah. And that's because we want that monthly payment to work, right?
Mhm.
Whether we're getting it for a primary residence or whether we're getting it for a real estate investment property, we want to make the cash flow work.
Yes.
Right. And what Nelson Nash really is promoting in his Becoming Your Own Banker book is like, we have to sort of shift our understanding about this, because the interest rate only determines the monthly payment. But it's very different than understanding what interest volume is, the actual physical amount of dollars that leaves our pocket to do the deal. Okay. So I will clarify in just a moment. So let's just take a look at month number 1, how $2,002 is broken up, right? So out of that $2,002, $987 essentially goes towards paying down the principal, which goes down towards paying down this $430,000 mortgage that was just loaned, right? But then out of that $2,002, $1,015 actually goes towards paying interest.
Yes.
So if we calculate $1,015 into $2,002 of what we just paid out, and we're thinking, okay, our understanding of interest rate is 2.85, but if we calculate how much interest that is, it's 50.7% interest volume. So interest rate only really determines the monthly payment that you're making, but it's very different than interest volume, the physical amount of dollars to do the deal.
I can just hear people go, "Oh my God."
Right? And so, I'm not sure what kind of black magic the bank produced, but $1,015 just automatically disappears, right? And if you're wondering, this kind of came up in the last session that we did, and so that's why I bring this up. If you want, please put it in the chat box if you want the website to this Canadian mortgage calculator. If you're ever financing, you want to know how much interest is coming in and out. This is where I got my numbers from for this example that we're doing here. Okay, it's from this mortgage calculator right here, and it helped me produce all the numbers like down below. Okay, so again, coming back to this is that let's look at month number 2. So the pattern is that a few more dollars gets applied to the mortgage, and a few less dollars goes towards paying the interest, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then so we know that with every payment that we make, it becomes a little bit more efficient than the last payment. But I say a little bit because that's really what it is, a little bit at a time, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't move very fast. Like if we fast forward 12 full months later, out of the $24,000 after tax that we paid to the bank, 12,000 of that went to pay down the 430, and still a little over 12,000 went to paying down the interest. That's still hovering around just over the 50% mark.
Yeah.
In interest in the first year, right? If we go all the way out to year number 5, we've now parted ways with $120,000 after tax. And again, I mean, it's less than 50%, but not by much. Like 63,000 over that 5-year period goes towards paying down the principal, and 56 goes towards the bank. That's still a huge amount that has left our pockets that we're never able to use again in our lives, right?
Yes.
So, and what typically happens around year 5 is that, we essentially have the option to refinance, right? Maybe it's 5 years, maybe it's 3 years, but when we take that deal to either refinance or renew, we're essentially starting back at square one again. And then we kind of have to go through this whole process. Maybe the balance is a little bit different. Maybe the more interest rate is different, but we essentially push the reset button.
So yeah, so I usually you take a 5-year term. When you renegotiate your term after 5 years, you're going back to square one in the split.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So, and what's interesting too is that Money Sense magazine put out in 2012, like the general way that Canadians even behave around this type of financing is that at the 3.5-year mark, the average Canadian just like terminates the contract that they're in in order to get into new financing because they need to upsize, downsize, whatever the reason is. Maybe they have to roll all their debt into one thing because they accumulated 3.5 years worth of debt,
Mm-hmm.
So, but what happens when we do that? When we terminate early?
Well, there's usually a fee, and then you start back to square one.
Right. There's a penalty on top of the interest that you already have to pay,
Yeah.
which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
So if we went all the way out to year 25 on this, right, and we didn't do anything different, but just stayed with this particular mortgage, what's interesting is that it's not until year 15, which is, more than halfway through the mortgage, that finally we're at 50% of the way of what we owe to the bank. But we've already parted ways with $352,000 out of our own pocket after tax, right? And if we went all the way out to year 25, a total of $600,000 went to the bank. 430 of that went to what we borrowed from, and then 170 of that actually went towards interest. So if we actually divided 170 into 430, it'd be like 39 something percent, or 39, 40%, right? So that's a lot of dollars. So if you're ever like,
Okay, I think we need to pause here, because when I saw this the first time, it's just one of those calculations, like in your head, that somehow it doesn't add to 2.85%. And the first time you showed me this, I went, oh my God, this is insane when you look at it this way.
mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very different. And I mean, of course, we're not taught this in school, right? Because on the onset, if you take a look at it just from for pure mathematics, we're not talking about even looking at this as a revenue property, but mathematically wise, like if we were taught this way and we understood, okay, if you want to do a deal at 2.85% to get into this deal, these are the numbers. What you're saying yes to is the possibility of losing an additional $170,000 in interest.
Yeah.
At least then I can make an educated decision about whether I still want to move forward with buying a house or not. Maybe now I'll just prefer to rent.
Yeah.
Because I'm not even talking about all the stuff that comes along with owning a house to begin with. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So if I still say yes, I still want to do this deal, I still want to buy a house, then it's more of an educated choice. Like, yeah, I still want to do it because I'm an investor. I know what I'm doing. I can make this work anyways. Like, at least it's an educated decision, right?
Mm-hmm. Now, Chippo wants to know, is this how it goes for all the money we borrow?
Yeah. It is how it goes if you are the borrower.
Well, this is the magic of amortization, really, right? Like the reason why it's like this is because it's spread out over 25 years.
Yeah.
Now, hopefully, if you're using a credit card, you're not carrying a balance at all. But let's say you take out
Yeah, good point, Ellen. Yeah, I mean, if you're using a credit card,
like
off, yeah.
the reason it's so monstrous is because it's amortized over 25 years.
Yeah.
And and so to go further to this, the reason why I shared this example is because there's only two characters in the play in this particular example. There's the banker and there's the borrower. Those are the only two characters in this play. And so, of course, the rhetorical question is, if you had a choice, which you do now, but if you had a choice, which character would you rather be? Would you rather be the borrower, the banker, or the borrower? Right? And so the obvious answer is, well, if I had a choice and I could, then I would be the banker for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So here's another, golden rule in the world of finances is he who has the gold makes the rules. And so Nelson says, so if that's the rule, then let's make our own rules, right? Let's make our own gold so that we can make our own rules. And so that's what the infinite banking concept is really about. The knowledge inside this book will allow us to make our own rules, but we have to understand how it's played first, right? That's why I talked about what's the banking business model. How do we mimic that in our own lives, right? So again, how would our life be different if we could keep a third more of our money in our lives? What would it be if we could keep the interest? Why did I say it's possible to lose up to a third of our money to interest in our lives? Well, the biggest factor is mortgage.
Yeah.
Right? And this is just general, right? I'm not saying it's true for everybody. I'm just saying on the general whole, this is what typically happens, especially if we participate in mortgages. It could happen for sure. So as entrepreneurs and business owners, we get to write off the interest for tax purposes, don't we?
Yeah.
But the thing is that as business owners and entrepreneurs, we don't get any of the interest back into our pockets. And the reason why that is because we don't own the debt.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, someone else owns it. So, I've made all this fuss about interest rates, and it's because I want to invite you to rethink your thinking about this. Right? So if you own the debt, you also own the interest.
Mm-hmm.
I know, emotionally wise, our job is to get rid of all the debt. That's what we want. And here I am saying, no, you got to own your debt from now on.
Very fascinating concept.
Mm-hmm. So again, just for a more in-depth case study, join me on this day for sure. Because it's going to...
And this next webinar is with us, Women Talk Again, correct?
It could be if you want to host it again.
Or you're doing it. Okay, so I'm doing
it. Yeah, I'm doing it.
Okay, cool. So we'll send everybody a link?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I kind of ran out of time this one, but I don't know if we want to keep going.
I have a meeting at 8:15, so another online meeting. So we do have another 5 minutes or so.
Okay, let me see if I can button it up in 5. So essentially, the IBC strategy allows us to be not just the two characters in play, the banker and the lender. The IBC strategy will allow you to become the bank owner, right? The one who earns the profits in the company, the banker, the one who gets to set the terms of the agreement for any financing. You also get to be the one who pours the money. And you also get to be the one who saves the money. And so, when you can play all 4 characters in the play, it becomes almost impossible to lose money in your world, okay? And so, again, what this means is that we can now do what the banks do. That's what I mean in terms of reclaiming. Nelson gave us the ability to reclaim and take back some of our wealth by being able to practice something that is so successful for the bankers, which is take deposits, lend out money, and charge interest. So we have the ability to now mimic the same successful banking business model in our own personal lives on the mean level in every financial arena of our lives, personally, family-wise, business-wise, right? So, the current way of doing things keeps our money trapped, right, in these walls, versus what Nelson discovered, which is the information in this book inside of a financial vehicle, which happens to be a specifically designed whole life insurance contract, which I'll get more into in the next webinar. And it's really about questioning, where do you want to keep your money to maximize your financial impact in your world, right? You can either stay with the mainstream or come do the infinite banking way. And I invite you to look a little bit further with me into what this could look like for you guys, right? Because, with infinite banking, you're going to get a clue, and you're going to get a clue about how you can get more control, how you can have more liquidity, use and utilization of your everyday life, and build equity at the same time. So, and again, I bring up this image because it's going to look sort of like this. So, on September 4th, what I'm going to cover in the webinar is an example of using infinite banking and actually becoming the banker in your own life. If you want to do that, or if you just want to know what it's like to feel the freedom of what it's like, but it's an in-depth case study on how to buy a car and what that looks like just with a car. How can it get you further ahead just by buying a car, right, in the infinite banking way? And it's going to demonstrate how your capital is a lot more liquid doing it this way. I'm also going to cover a lot more about, how warehousing your money and your positive cash flow and your emergency funds, where they're liquid, you can actually multitask all of your dollars without having to incur a lot of banking fees. how you're going to build up a reserve for your next purchase, and how it's possible to create a multi-generational impact. Yeah, with and without money. So that's what I'm going to cover on September 4th, that webinar. I'm going to post a link.
I can, oh yeah, you can post in a comment and I will email it to everyone with the recording of this webinar.
Well, that'd be awesome. Okay, let me just put this in the chat box. Where is the chat box?
Should be at the bottom there. When you move your mouse, it says chat, just off to the right a bit in the middle.
Oh, I just need to make a while. Sorry to everyone. Here we go.
There we go. It's in there. So this link that just popped up in the chat box is the link to register for September 4 to find out a little bit more in depth what this whole concept is about.
Yes.
Cool.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
Yeah, I changed my book even from Wednesday and Thursday to do the audiobook because this is so interesting. But Winnie, if we want to talk to you privately, are we able to do that before September 4th?
Yes, you can, for sure.
I will send Winnie's information. I'll have a quick chat after with Winnie. And I will send anybody that register for the webinar will get the recording, how to get a hold of Winnie, and the registration link.
Awesome. So I'll just thank you everyone for being online with me here today.
That is like such a crazy concept. I'm going to unmute everyone here. I am absolutely fascinated with this concept. I think that it's just so, it's like a mind twister. Like it's crazy.
Good.
Anybody else kind of had a bit of a spark, or because I just think it's very well. Obviously, Irene, she already rescheduled.
It sounds amazing, but it's also amazing that we've allowed the banks to basically steal our money all this time.
Yeah. And it's because, yeah, there really wasn't. And, I've heard of similar to this concept years ago about having sort of a borrowing line or something within your insurance. So, and I'm not sure if that's what Winnie's is talking about here, but it is so obscure and so kept hidden that most people have absolutely no idea about this.
Mm-hmm.
It's an outrage. I'm going to flip tables and bust walls right now.
I know, you fascinated. Like the first time I heard this, I went like, oh, what? This is crazy. You really like, that's so cool. So cool. And so good on you for going out there and sharing this information with people.
Yeah, it's not been easy to always do that because, when you introduce something like this, you get judged.
And I just want to say to everyone as well, this is my second time listening to this webinar, and I'm just starting to get it a little bit more. So you really need to let it sink in, and wrap your head around the concept, and maybe watch the replay again and have a chat with Winnie. I know I will, and I'll be there for the next webinar. It's a fascinating concept.
Yes,
I totally agree. It's very hard to wrap your head around what you've just told us.
Yeah.
It goes against everything. I mean, everything we've been doing, everything we've been taught. And you're kind of going like, okay, now I'm really confused.
Totally. And it will take you a couple of times to listen to it. And I know it got a little bit clearer for me today again. And I think that by taking the next webinar, it'll probably help more. I mean, Winnie, you can talk to that, because I honestly, I am not paid to do this. Winnie is simply a Women Talk member, and as members you get to host webinar, and that's it. That's all I get is Winnie's $19 a month as a member. So there's no kickback or anything like that. I'm just really truly fascinated by the concept. Mm-hmm. And it would be really cool to have a tribe of women that know this and can make more money.
Quick question. Will you be covering what kind of insurance policy we have to have? I would think it's probably a new life policy, and what kind of dollars we're looking at, and there's more to it, right?
There's definitely more to it. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
in the next webinar.
Very cool.
It's like a fingerprint though, right? Like the cost and it'll be different for everybody. But I think what's most important is getting the concept first and like, you know, agreeing within yourself, like, hey, this is something that really resonates with me. And then,
right.
Yeah. And then
So what I will ask is that I will send you information. I mean, you know, somebody close to you share the webinar, but just to help me as a Women Talk and hosting this, don't share the webinar with, well, if it's a Women Talk member, that's fine. And we'll host a webinar again. So next time it comes up, if you do know people that could benefit from this, share it with them. And that's why I do these things, so we can grow our tribe as well.
yes, and thank you so much, Bridget. I really love your platform so very much. I'm so very grateful that you did this webinar with me today. I'm honored.
Thank you. It's amazing concept, and I will be there on September 4th for sure.
Okay.
All right, ladies. So, Winnie, I will send you a message. I need all of your information to forward. Actually, if you could just send me an email or a text. Actually, email would be better. Send me all the information, how they can get a hold of you, the name of the next webinar, and the link. And then I will attach this to the video that I'll send to everyone who registered.
Yes. And thank you, gentlemen, for showing up on the line today.
And yes, Roseanne, everybody, you can share it with your husband, because as far as I'm concerned, husbands and wives, they're like, it's the same. It's part of you. You're one. So yes, do share with your husband for sure. Thanks everyone for being here. And don't forget, the Women Talk Convention is coming soon at the end of September. If you don't have your ticket yet, go to womentalk.ca. Thank you for attending this webinar. And Winnie, thank you again for all your knowledge. Bye-bye.
Bye.